Welcome to Business on the Vine. I'm your host, Lady Gender Plessis, and in this dynamic series, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and victories of entrepreneurs who have turned their passion into success. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business on the Vine. I love my next guest because I've actually known you for a couple of years, Jay, and we have tried to get together. Finally is the right timing. We're talking about Business on the Vine, and your backdrop, it looks like vines, but it's not. It's a tree that you have all of your animals in.
Well, area actually.
Yeah, there you go. So we just want to welcome you to the show. We want to welcome you listening to the show, and we're delighted to have you all here today. I am going to give you a somewhat of an introduction here based on what I know about you. Jay is known as the reptile guy or the reptile man. You can correct me, Jay, when I screw it up. But I've known him through an organization that we both belong to called Secret Knock. And, he's brought white snakes. He's brought all kinds of a tarantula. I think one day I saw someone holding it. I was like, no, I won't be doing that. But Jay, it's just a pleasure to have you on the show. And I'm so excited to learn how you created a business from this love that you've had as a child with reptiles. So let's get started where it all happened. Why reptiles? There's guys that like cars. There's guys that like motorcycles. They like playing chess. What about you?
Well, I mean, to be honest, when I was young, I just didn't have anything. I had a unique childhood. I was adopted at birth, basically, and my mom had passed away when I was 4, my adopted mother, and we were really poor. And so little poor kids don't really get a lot to do. You don't got all the cool bicycles and trains and planes and games. And I found myself going out and flipping boards over and chasing lizards and catching snakes. And I found the adventure just as good as all those games anyway. So eventually, fast forward, I ended up being orphaned. And one of the other things that I enjoyed was fishing. And I became a commercial fisherman. Crazy enough that with no money and really nowhere to live, I somehow, by the time my dad had passed away when I was 14, I somehow ended up with my own little business by the time I was 15, because I'd work every day and I didn't do good in school. My focus wasn't school at all. I had a lot of learning disabilities, but man, whatever I did, I was all in, and I still am all in.
I love that. I love that. Well, and I love your energy. I mean, you just have this air about you that, the energy's there. And I don't know if it stems from, look, I'm an animal lover. I mean,
Right.
I was an only child. So I didn't have anybody to play with except for
Right.
animals, right?
So
Stuffed animals, stuffed animals on my bed, dogs and cats. And and so I just have this really sensitive thing for animals. I'm not sure I have it for snakes. I'm just going to be honest. Okay. I know I don't have it. I don't mind a big snake. It's the little ones that go really fast.
Most people don't even understand why they're scared of the little snakes.
So tell us why. Yeah, tell us why.
Because big snakes, you know where they're at. Little snakes can come out anywhere. You don't know where they're at, when they're coming out, and that's funny. But they're just that surprise element. The fear of surprise.
Yeah.
When you see a great big snake, you would think it should be the opposite, because the big snake is a giant version of your fear, but it's actually 90% of people don't even think about it. But then when I ask them, well, is it the fact that it can disappear and then all of a sudden appear somewhere where you don't expect it? And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's interesting. The fear of surprise, the fear of surprise. And we have that same fear. Just happened a couple of days ago. We were at dinner someplace at one of the vineyards, and some bird decided to swoop down on my girlfriend who was sitting next to me. And
I don't know if you can see that, but a little spider just went by.
Yeah.
I'm out of my little mini jungle here.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah. And I mean, it's that swooping down that even a bird can do. It's like, right. It's so that's what you're so right on with that. That's interesting.
I even got my little bunny running through.
I love your bunny. I love that, buddy. Now
Got
listen,
that.
you're not gonna be able to hold him too long because he's gonna get angry at you.
He's funny.
I love it. I love him. Thanks for sharing him on our recording too. We were playing with him beforehand. So so you were doing all, doing playing with all the animals, and whatever kind of animal it was. And then you started doing fishing, you had this fishing, but what led you to reptiles? How did this all start? Because you've been doing this a really long time.
Well, you don't run out and catch, crazy animals. Usually the lizards, the frogs, things like that, the snakes, they're obtainable.
Right.
And when I know I jumped to fishing, but really the point is when I started my business, what ended up happening, that gave me the money and the resources to chase my dream. A lot of us have dreams of businesses, but we don't have a way to get there. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to find a way to get there. And all dreams and all businesses need funding. They're really
Yeah.
the same thing if you get it right, at least in my mind. And I was really lucky at a young age that I had decided I had nothing. So I always thought to myself, well, why would I go to work to make money to go do what I want to do? Why don't I just do what I want to do and find a way to make a business out of it? And
Yeah.
so basically, that's how I got started. Is I got enough money from fishing, which I love fishing, but things changed, and I was able to break off and go do my other dream thing, and that was the animals, and the animals were the reptiles because that's what I really chose. Even though, I mean, obviously I had dogs and cat. I mean, didn't have
And a bunny.
cats, but
And a
I was
bunny.
allergic to cats. A lot of people are dog or cat people. I was
Yeah.
a dog person.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that you're saying about passion. Let's talk about the business piece of this for a second here. Is that, so often you'll hear people say, passion doesn't pay the bills, or whatever you're passionate about. And you saw me and at Secret Knock, I was interviewing someone who, was making stuffed animals and puppets when she was 10 years old. And now she's got a $1 billion business, with
I
golf cart covers, right? That Tiger Woods and everybody else uses. And so it's an example of following your passion. But as you're following your passion, at what point do you realize this isn't going to work or this is going to work? Can you give some insight on that for someone who might be following their passion and they're just not letting go?
I don't know if
Believe
anybody.
it.
I don't know if anybody liked my answer because
Okay.
because I don't think there's ever a time it won't work. I think the only time it won't work is when you don't believe in it and you give up on it.
Yeah, perfect.
So I don't even know how to give up. I don't want to learn how to give up. I don't want to teach anybody how to give up. I don't. I just I can't do something I don't believe in. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying, right? That's
Yeah.
why. So I just think that maybe you have to look a little broader to find a way to get to your dream,
That's
and maybe
very
you got to
good.
and maybe you got to be a little patient. I didn't make, I struggled for 30 years financially, but you know what? I had everything.
Yeah.
I had everything that rich people had. I had friends. I had influence. I had really wealthy friends. I can go almost anywhere in the world. I didn't have two pennies practically, but I could show up in any country and go sit with just about presidents and royal families
Yeah.
and all kinds of stuff. So I mean, what are you seeking? Or if you're just seeking money, then maybe you need to do whatever you have to do to make money, because maybe that you think that's your dream is just money. But
Right.
for me,
Well, and you said that too. It was the same thing. Like you were making money as a commercial fisherman, but it wasn't the passion, and it's just
I
that.
don't know about that. I still love fishing, but it wasn't my I it wasn't what I was meant to do my whole life,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
and I think that I got pushed. I did get pushed a little bit out of it by the government, and I just didn't like what it was doing. And to be honest, one of the things that I want to do is raise a family. Well, we have trees falling behind
I
us.
know. I was looking behind you and saying,
The
okay,
jungle,
cutting trees.
which life is a jungle. So
I'll keep
sometimes you got to
looking.
make adjustments, and that's what I did. Is I
Yeah.
decided when I wanted to get married and I wanted to have a family, and I thought this fishing business is not going to be good for my family
Right.
because coming from no family, I thought, well, I don't want my kids being raised around drugs and alcohol. In the fishing business that I did, there was a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of drugs
yeah,
and
yeah.
alcohol around me. So
Mhm.
life does sometimes turn you a little bit of what you're doing, but I think at the core, you got to feel like you want to do what you want to do, and it's
Yeah.
got to mean something to you. I
Yeah.
mean, if you wake up and you go to work and it's all about the watching the clock and you're working 9 to 5, I don't know. I don't really know if you're going to ever be cut out to be self-employed, because self-employment is not 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
Right.
At least I've never seen it. I meet some of the wealthiest people in the world, and they're working day and night to keep their empires alive. And it's not because they need the money. It's because they have passion to run it, and it requires it.
Yeah, yeah. I know Jeff Hoffman said that, right, too, is that, he's got more money, and, he's the founder of Priceline and Booking.com.
Oh,
And
I love him. He's
I
amazing.
loved, right? Yeah,
What
love.
an incredible speaker too.
Oh, and he's just so down to earth, and, and he's just a great mentor. Okay, so you decided, hey, I like these reptiles. There's got to be a way that I can have a business. What did it start out being?
Well, I actually bought a little pet store.
Okay.
And, I always use the term living the dream. And what I mean by that is that living the dream to me may not be what it means to some people, because they
That's
didn't
right.
think about it. But living the dream to me is having a dream of something that you want to do to, in this case for a living. It could be anything, because I have a lot of things in my life that are like, you remember he talks about a car that and everybody making fun about him, and he ended up with that car, I forget if it was a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or what it was.
Yeah.
But I really believe that if you have a dream and you really believe that you want to do it, whether it be something silly like owning a car, or in my case, having a big reptile place where people come and all that. Well, all of a sudden, when you find yourself way beyond you could ever dream, coming from an orphan background with no money, I could have never dreamt what happened and how my life turned into, and having 80 million followers, and going all over the world, traveling, and private jets, and staying in places that the richest people in the world stay in, and having sitting at the same tables with them. And I just think to myself, how does an orphan kid with no money get here?
Right.
A dream.
For someone who's playing with these crazy animals.
Living the dream, because you can't even dream that big. So I'm awake and I'm living it right this minute. You know what I mean? So
I love that. I love that, because you hear that all the time. Like, how you doing today? They go, living the dream, and they're not really living the dream, but you are.
Well, sometimes people say it even sarcastically, when things are tough.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes I even say it that way, because I have to remind myself, because what you say is important. And I think that we have to remind ourselves that how are you going to be, happiness is between here and here. Yes. You can have a bad day and have a good attitude, and you can have a great day in the middle of a bad day, and you can have a great day and have a bad attitude, and you can have a bad day. So I think that a lot of times we don't realize that we're that close to happiness, and enjoying a day is just our attitude and how we show up. And so, that's another important time. I've had a lot of the other days where I felt like, because losing my mom, losing my dad, having no family of any kind, till I was 33 years old, I had a lot of days where I just thought, man, I just got burnt. I just, how unfair it is for me, la, 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 la. And you know what?
Always me, what's next?
I didn't get very far during those periods of my life. I didn't grow. I just sat there stagnant, and not a lot of great stuff comes in those moments. Where on the other hand, I thought, you know what? This is great, and I tried to engage I have a saying, I have a book that I hope to release soon. And one of my quotes that I have in it, you can laugh or you can cry. One is a lot funner than the other.
Yeah.
Choose wisely. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah. That's it. And we were talking about in the green room, right? My husband and I do laugh your way to a healthy marriage, because otherwise, what do? You've got to do something.
Right? You're going to have a bad day when you're married, right?
You're going to have a bad day. And so you got to learn how to laugh.
Bad week, bad month.
Right.
Maybe even a bad year. But you know what? Like I say, back to that, get the right attitude on, and life can be different. The other old joke, your attitude decides your altitude.
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does. Absolutely. Okay, so You know what? So I know you had the pet shop, and then from the pet shop, people were starting to, come in and sort of play with the animals, wanted to play with them. But where did you go from the pet shop? Because
Well, this is
believe
really
I believe
another
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
this is really another great point that you brought up. So how did I get from a pet shop to a zoo? I mean, a
Yeah.
zoo and 80 million followers. Well, the funny thing is every one of those things that moved me, excuse me, every one of those things that moved me forward was a giant problem. So first thing that happened
Okay.
was the Gulf War way back, right?
Yeah.
All of a
Hmm.
sudden, I couldn't make enough money because the economy was terrible and everything was horrible. And so I decided, oh, I got to do education. And then, so I started doing education. And then after I started doing the education, I realized, well, geez, it's kind of rebound again. I had some more economy issues. So I just started doing birthday parties. And before you know it, I'm doing, the birthday party and educations. Well, that's almost what a zoo is entertaining and enjoying what all the cool things about animals. So all of a sudden, that Mr. Never went to school, straight F's and D's, went to went to being the people that are teaching kids. But luckily, when it comes to reptiles, I'm gifted because my passion was to learn about them. So I learned things that books didn't tell you, and then that also got me into breeding the animals, letting my snakes reproduce, and I started creating the rarest snakes in the world that have never been seen because of their colors. Like there's albino, there's
Yeah, you
striped
have all the
snakes,
white animals. Yeah, they're
all the different colors. And so I started taking those colors and mixing them together, and they weren't inbreeding. I was just using like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
one up literally genetic defects that were just different. I mean, not supposed to be albino, but I'd get ones that are all white, ones that are orange, ones that are striped, ones that are banded, and I'd breed them together, the same kind of snake, and reproduce ones that never been seen in the world. And
Yeah.
that got me into another realm online. And then COVID hit, another nightmare, right? And when COVID hit,
Yeah, nobody can
I
come and be
I didn't
pet.
have yeah, I didn't have any money, and now I have a zoo, and nobody can come in it. And I got $120,000 a month bills, and I'm thinking, wow, this is something. I mean, but I felt the only good news is I went through so much hardship in my life that I just thought,
You're
I'm
resilient.
good. I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, this is interesting. This is the first time that I'm almost bankrupt, and the whole world's with me. I really
Yes.
feel comfortable. And lo and behold, 6 months into COVID, I all of a sudden start getting so famous online. I already had millions, but I went from millions to tens of millions, and literally went from, like barely paying my bills to giving the IRS $1 million. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't know if I like this, making all this money, because I'm writing the IRS so much money. I'm just thinking, this is crazy. But I
Yeah.
had to eventually learn that's just part of economics.
Right. Right. And that's a good thing. Yeah. And I mean, this resilience and the ups and downs that businesses have, I think that's really important for everyone to hear. And, I have another podcast called Success to Significance: Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, because we do break through glass ceilings every day, with challenges, with problems that we
And
have, we learn how to break through them. And you've, really mastered that in your
well, that
business
goes all the way back to,
childhood.
the concept of I really feel lucky that I started so on the bottom with
Yeah.
absolutely nothing, because that
Oh,
gave me the ability to win. Because I win
yeah.
here, I win a little bit, and then I win a little bit bigger, and then I win a little bit bigger, and then I fail. But it's like, no big deal. I know what it tastes like to win. And if I
Yeah.
start at the top, I would have never learned how to win. And
Right.
winning is a lot of times perseverance is all it is, and not giving up, because we're not scared to lose. And when you're not scared to lose, it gives you a different outlook. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I can make it here maybe, but I have to take a risk here. But the worst case scenario, I'm going to drop to here, and I'll get back to here in some time. And
Yeah.
so you could say that I'm a calculated risk taker, because I am. And
Mhm.
I'm still feel like, hey, winning is really a series of pushing yourself through things that people don't normally push themselves through, yourselves through, because if you're going to do something that's never been done, you're going to have to do something that's never been done.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I love that. I love that quote. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like losing 100 pounds, right? For those of you that aren't watching, he was using his hands to kind of share, this up and down piece. But it's like losing 100 pounds. You know, if someone walks around, and go, my goal is to lose 100 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds. I want to lose 100 pounds. Why not try losing 5? Be successful at that. Learn what you need to do to get to lose 5. And then maybe you're going to lose another 10 because you've learned the system, right? And then you had a weekend of partying and weddings and whatever you do, traveling, and you dropped it down. But you're like, that's okay, because I've learned how to do it.
It's funny is that brings me back to another thing that took me a long time to learn. I used to see my life as a ladder. And I would be like I'd be going up that ladder, way up that ladder, and then I would fail and I would fall.
Fine.
And instead of getting back on the ladder emotionally or mentally at where I fell down, I would get back on the bottom in my mind and start back up, like as if I'm starting all over again.
Oh, you're a failure. Yeah.
Right. And so halfway through my life, or 3/4 of the way through my life, I thought, you know what? I've already learned all those. I'm just going to go back to where I failed. Kind of like if you're playing a video game. I never had time, but being able, you always, when you fail, you have to start all over again. But
yes,
like in a video game, don't take yourself back to the bottom. Get yourself back where you were doing right and start off right where you're doing right.
And learn from that to take you to the next levels. Yeah.
Right. And then when you get past that, you're always past it. You have to emotionally just realize, okay,
it becomes your floor, right? Each ceiling, it becomes a new floor. That's what tracking through the top producer. I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
That's another thing I do too. But the glass ceiling is, once you've gone through that ceiling, then you have another ceiling, and that becomes the floor.
And you really don't know what they are until you get to one of them, because you can't even see the next one because it's too far out of your sight when you're way down on the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I want to talk about the animals as we close up our time together. I want to talk about this. I used to not introduce you, but just talk about you and say, well, he's kind of like the Steve Irwin of reptiles. Right? Steve, or I'm sure you've heard that before, whether you like it or not. I'm sure you've heard it.
Yeah, I think Steve Irwin was amazing. And the funny part is, when I first started watching Steve Irwin, I thought, oh, this guy is so baloney. He's all, and I thought, he's not even for real. I don't, and then after I started watching him, I realized, wow, that is pure passion. And look what pure passion took him.
Yeah. And now his son, it's like watching.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I don't think it matters. You brought up something that I'd never heard, the making the little puppet things. And she's got this giant company. I mean, do you need to say anymore? I mean, one of my friends is a football player, and he has a brand called Best to Ever Do It, and just the letters. And at the end of the day, whatever your passion is, go be the best that you could ever do, the best to ever do it. And if you set those kind of standards and you work hard towards them, you'll achieve them. Because I really think that, I really believe in all of us, we have personal things that we're supposed to do on this planet. And I think we have a road that's there. I know that sounds kind of,
no, it's fine. We need mindset work. Yeah.
I am a spiritual person, and I really believe this. And I just think that if you can do it, anybody that says that they can't do it, they are right, because it wasn't meant for them to do. Right. And if you feel inside that you can do it, you will find a way to do it, because I really believe in that internal power, and the faith that you can do it is an important part of your life. And, in your marriage and your kids, anything, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life.
Everything that you're doing, if you're going to do it well. Okay. What's your favorite animal?
Well,
right now,
that is a brutal question.
You feel bad. You feel guilty.
I asked a little kid on the way out of the zoo that was so excited. She was like maybe 7 years old, 8 years old. And she's like, I go, did you have fun? I had so much fun. And I said, what was your favorite animal? And she goes, I don't know. And I just said, I like you, because you know what? You just basically told me you loved them all. And now you're telling me you can't choose one. And I'm telling you, I'm pretty close to that in my life
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I always tell people that's like asking me who's my favorite daughter. They're all special in their own way. And animals are very special and people are very special and we're all different. And I don't think it's just something I really enjoy. And
Yeah, they're special.
I get bit
Okay.
in the arm in a giant snake. It may not be my favorite one, but I still can appreciate that giant snake that bit me in the arm because
Yeah.
I look at it like a person, like just because you're rough on the outside doesn't, at least you had enough passion to defend yourself.
Right. At least it does.
I mean, it sounds funny, right?
Well, and hey, look, there are people that do bad things just because, and maybe that snake did, maybe it wasn't defending itself. It had just said, hey, I'm having a bad day.
It was, you know what? It was probably scared. And most of the people that lash out are weak.
Are scared.
They're usually
bullies.
weak and they're usually scared.
Yep, they're bullies.
And they're trying to prove that they're trying to prove that they're not weak.
Yeah.
And they're trying to prove that they're not scared.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I used to be that person. I mean,
yeah.
When I was young, I defend myself over everything. I still defend myself too much.
I do that. I do that too. I do that too because I come from an alcoholic family, and
my dad drank himself to death. I mean,
yeah, and that's what happens is you feel there's a certain level of victimness. You still have that resilience. You still have that fortitude, right, and that ability. But there's still always that but is it what's being done to me, not what's being done for me, and am I learning about it, right? And I think that's important. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question a different way then, instead of what's your favorite, right?
Yes.
Of all the reptiles that you work with, which one surprised you the most and became the most friendly?
Well, so
has a heart.
Very early in the game. So this would pin it down to one type of animal. And
gotcha.
So it would pin it, that particular question.
Yes.
So I used to have, when I was a fisherman and I started having money, all of a sudden, imagine an orphan kid that never seen money in his life. I went out and bought snakes that were thousands of dollars. And this is when thousands of dollars were like $10,000s. Matter of fact, back then, a real expensive snake was $1,500. Today, a real expensive snake is $15,000.
Right.
Well, anyway, back then I had a room with snakes in it. And I had this one big python, and his name was Thunder. I had a few snakes in there, but I had one snake, his name was Thunder. And I used to go in the room, and I would have friends over, girls and stuff and guys. And I would
in the fish aquariums, right?
And I'd go sit down in this room and they would sit next to me and I would say, this one's name is this Vita, this one's name is Thunder, this one's name is Stan. And these are the names of the snakes that were in this room. And I would, at the time, I didn't even realize how cool this was. And I would say, Thunder comes to his name. And of course, he wasn't coming to his name. He was coming to me because he had a relationship with me. And people would be like, snakes don't have relationships. What, you call it whatever you want. But I could go like this and say, come on, Thunder. And 9 out of 10 times, he would end up right on my leg, right here. And I could just pet him. And,
wow.
And he wasn't just a snake. He was about 100-pound snake, 125-pound snake. And people would just be like, a snake that comes to his name. And I know now, and I always knew then, that he wasn't coming to his name. And I say that, but my alligator comes to his name. And I've been to places where alligators will swim 1,000 feet to come to their name. In a pool full of alligators, the exact alligator will come to you. So they can hear, well, snakes are a little bit different on a vibration scale. But at the end of the day, that snake came to me almost every single time. And so the idea that a snake can bond to a human sounds crazy, but I had it happen with a lot of lizards, a lot of a few other snakes.
Yeah.
And so nobody freaks out when their dog comes to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, listen, we used to have a oh God, his name was Thor. They're in the wild down in St. Thomas and stuff. So why can't I think of the name? They're thorny. Iguana. Oh my gosh.
Oh, iguana.
Yeah, so we had an iguana and we had him, he was tiny and then he got really big. He got so big we couldn't put him in our bathtub anymore. So we had to have a pool in our garage in the winter so he could swim in it, because he loves swimming and everything. And he when I came in the house and sat down, he was always near me and almost like tapping me and going, "Excuse me, pet
Oh,
me."
I'm telling you,
Because and then his
I had
eyes
big,
would roll back. He would
I
go,
had giant, big bearded, not bearded dragons. Now you got me going places.
yeah, yeah, right.
A big, giant Asian water monitor, and I could go in my zoo. I used to let him run around, and I could just sit out on the ground, and he could be 20 feet away from me, and he'll just boom, 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 walk over and lay his head on me. I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Thor was like that.
so
Yeah,
I
he was
know
Thor.
that you're not making up stories, and that didn't happen with one animal. It happened with multiple animals.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was fun. He loved it, and he knew when he was getting a bath too. He would hear the water. You go, oh my God, I'm gonna get back. And not look at everybody. If you've never had one, you're not putting them in soapy water. You're just letting them swim and help their skin.
Rinse him off.
Right? They just swim in
It's
there.
funny. The rabbit keeps running at my feet. He's such a funny bunny.
Funny bunny. What would you like to leave with everyone today based on what we've talked about, whether it's a business thought or whether it's a life lesson
Well, I
or
mean,
something about animals?
in business, never give up. In life, more importantly, don't even get discouraged. Just realize that life has bumps in it. But those
Mhm.
bumps are hills that get you to a better view if you're just patient with them. And that the things in your past are only things you can use in your future. And that, you look back just long enough to learn from them. But when you're looking back, don't forget where you started and that you're probably 90% chance that you've been through some really cool stuff in your life and remember that something really cool is coming so that you never give up and you never give up on your dreams. And, I just believe that that's just part of life is troubles. It rains, it has thunder, but that brings growth and an awesome future.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I always say there's a reason that we have a rear view mirror that's smaller than
I was going to say the same thing, but I didn't
yeah,
want to go too deep. But I just
yeah,
had that analogy the other day, right? Your
yeah.
windshield's this big and your rear view's mirror's that big. And that's about how much you should use in the big
That's
picture.
exactly it. I say that all the time. Yeah.
That's a
Beautiful.
beautiful analogy that you're saying.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jay Bauer, thank you so much.
Yes, Brewer.
Brewer, Jay Brewer, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we finally did this. I hope you had a great time
Yeah,
on.
I felt bad. I was like, oh my gosh, why can't I make the time work? But you're a very busy woman, and I got a lot of stuff on my plate. But you know what? We got it done, and I really enjoy it. And
Yeah.
it's funny you brought up the tree in the beginning.
Yeah.
That this tree is a pomeria, and it's a lot of like life, right? My
Yes.
wife, I took my wife to Hawaii probably 15 years ago, and she loved pomerias and she loved Hawaii. My whole backyard looks like Hawaii. Now there's a giant tree that flowers fall all the time. And it took one little tiny plant that I brought back and determined to make the backyard like a dream
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
wife. And so now it's almost a jungle. It is a jungle. In
Yeah.
the
But I
video,
love
we
it.
had
It's
we
so,
had a palm fall and we got
yeah.
spider coming down. But at the end of the day, that's how life is. If you have a
It
dream
goes
and
all
you
different
start
ways.
little, it starts little, but it grows.
Yeah.
So whatever you're working on out there, everybody, don't give up. Keep watering it and do whatever you have to do in order to do that, even if it's doing something you're not in love with, to to make the to make the finances to make it there.
Make the
I guess I
results.
just created a new ending for the video, but this is kind of proof to me that a little dream can turn really big.
Yeah. And it has all these turns and all these ways it goes. It's just like
Yeah.
vines. And this
And
is,
there was a lot of
yeah.
rain and storms to get here.
Oh yeah, and sunshine, right? Lots
And
of sunshine
sunshine,
too.
great
And
sunshine.
that's the way vines are. That's why we call it business on the vine, because at our vineyard, they don't always perform the way they
Yeah,
want.
that's what I mean. So this is kind of a product of it. Now it's a giant tree.
That's right. And it's strong too. And that's what's good.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah,
makes beautiful flowers that smell amazing. So
that's
the
beautiful.
vine, I love I love the name of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you again, Jay, for being with us. And for all of you, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was a fun video, but take what he's talking to heart, because he's giving you life lessons, and these aren't tactical things. Today, it's more mindset, right? You said woo-woo, but it's more mindset. And I believe that mindset plus mechanics equals momentum. So you've got to have a little bit of both. So take some of these quotes, use them as affirmations every morning in your life. He's loaded with sound bites and quotes on this podcast. So great opportunity for that.
That's
and
why
thank you.
That's why there's a morning for we can reboot.
That's right. We're rebooting ourselves every morning. And again, Jay, I want to say thank you. And I want to thank all of you for listening and taking time out of your busy day to join us. Be sure to head over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. We have the link below. We'll have a link below to Jay's website if you want to have Kim come and do some kind of speech or share some of the animals with your organization or your company, your event. And just can't wait to have more opportunities ahead. We'll see you next time on Business on the Vine.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on Business on the Vine. If you found value in today's conversation and would like additional support, go to supportfromjen.com. Remember, the best ideas are always discovered on the vine. So keep innovating, stay inspired, and continue to grow.